Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know, yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show, yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know, yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show, yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know, yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show, yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know, yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show, yeah.
What up? How's it going? What it do? Obviously, you fake CEOs of Cryptovoxels for sure. Yeah. Anything else? Rizzle stuff, but I don't want to make like every podcast about that. Have you heard of Stealcam? New crypto social. It reminds me a lot of Scent or image focus. Pixelated. Can't see it until they steal it. Oh, a larger conversation about just like Web3 social media and the lack thereof. Lens protocol doing something overrun with AI bots. Didn't get my handle for Lens. Showtime. Alex Massman. Bring back full set. Hudlin is out there too.
Cool. Well, I'm imagining Robot Lady in my head.
Imagine there's no
Robot Lady.
Drago Nate, aka Robot Lady, gave us a vibey head shake emoji. So I guess we're recording now. This is Matthew, aka Nifty Time. Back with my dude Rizzle. Another episode of the Matthew and Rizzle show, aka Mars. Love going to Mars every Tuesday recording this. And we're starting off with a heater, with a banger this week. Rizzle apparently is the fake new interim CEO of Cryptovoxels. Let's all bow down. Moment of silence for our new master. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, there's no I didn't start any drama with Beeple this week, so I decided to create my own in the vacuum that Ben has left at Cryptovoxels, exiting as CEO. My understanding is that the hunt is on, or they don't have someone specific in mind. So I just decided to take ownership of the position and call myself the new fake CEO of Cryptovoxels and start making the rules the way everyone wants them to be in the first place anyway. Maybe I meme it into existence. Who knows? I should actually caveat this with saying that I actually really like Ben Nolan a lot and have had some public disagreements with him and agreements with him, but in no way am I trying to throw shade at him, and do believe, despite our disagreements over the years, that he has good intentions and wants this thing to go correctly. So I decided to help out and become his new fake CEO until someone better comes along. At least I figured they need me out there,
I mean, at least according to the video he uploaded yesterday, which it started out with a whole bunch of VR updates, which are actually, they sound really cool. So being able to go into Cryptovoxels using VR, building while in VR sounds pretty dope. And then it was whiplash into, and I'm stepping down as CEO. And you said that he didn't have anyone lined up. I think he has at least a couple of folks that he's going to bring in and cycle through as CEOs before he makes the final decision of who is the ultimate CEO after that interim phase. And he's not leaving as well. So he's just going to be, quote unquote, another dev in the project, which, I love Ben too and everything that he's done with Cryptovoxels. It just, in my mind, I'm imagining coming in as a new CEO when the old CEO is still there, and not just old CEO, but the sole owner of Cryptovoxels still, which is not going to change when Ben becomes a dev. So I'm just hoping that there's enough air to breathe in that new CEO position so that they can make decisions and run and steer the ship in a different direction without being too beholden to Ben. That's the only thing I'm slightly concerned about with this new arrangement heading forward. But really excited for Rizzle to step up and start steering the ship somewhere, dude, in this vacuum that's created.
Not only does this new person have to deal with that semi-awkward dynamic with Ben at Cryptovoxels, they also have to deal with my obnoxious ass being fake CEO, scrutinizing whoever's in the rotation. It seems like the obvious answer is me, right? I don't know who else knows the situation enough to wrangle Ben and deal with all the nuances in the old community. So I feel like this is a perfect time for me to just completely inappropriately insert myself into this situation and start calling some shots,
And I do believe that Voxels co-signed this because they retweeted it, and we know that retweets mean that they support whatever they retweet. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Basically in the books now. So
it's been written.
yeah.
So yeah, until we get a cease and desist, yeah, let's put all of our efforts behind Rizzle as new CEO of Cryptovoxels. Well, dude, as new CEO, let me put your butt to the fire here. Like,
Yeah.
what are your three main targets to change or improve or make better for all of us owners and users?
Yeah, well, I actually outlined this in my brief tweet earlier so that everyone knows exactly what the new agenda is. It's to unrebrand back to the original brand Cryptovoxels, which everyone just knows it as anyway, and is the Twitter handle anyway. So let's unwind that. We're gonna like roll back a little bit, and then I want VRM integration. I feel like that everybody's got that now, and if that's not on like the forefront of your like mission, then you're gonna get lost in the shuffle as everyone is starting to move towards interoperable VRMs. And then this actually sounds like I'm the official CEO. I honestly believe that more time needs to be spent listening to the community and just doing stuff that the community wants to do. I feel like that was always the bridge that was unable to be gapped at Cryptovoxels, where they were sort of on a mission that was not in congruence with the direction the community wanted it to go. And so there was sort of like almost like two different conversations going on about the direction that it should be headed in, and therefore it's sort of in this like muddled like middle ground right now. So want to go bring it back to the community and do all awesome stuff, and I won't do anything wrong either. So that's like the best part of my fake platform, is that everything works for everybody at the end of this. No, but in all honesty, dude, I do feel like there is some like something that has always been missing, and which is why I ended up like trolling Ben a little bit a couple weeks ago about his move to bring in a couple people from the quote unquote outside who aren't familiar with the inner community. I feel like that's always been the trap with Cryptovoxels, is that disconnect, and they have such like a vibrant community that we're a part of and we know everyone involved with, but they've just never really been like into it or listened intently or tried to deliver on the things that the community most desires. So and honestly, man, that's why I sort of fell in with Monaverse and feel good about working with them, because they are pretty good listeners when it comes down to it. I mean, there's a tough balance of like having to drive a ship, having to, secure funding, having to make sure you can pay your people and be profitable, but also taking into account the stuff that the users actually want and the people who are using your product every day, like really need in order to have a good experience. And so, none of these platforms are perfect, but I feel like Cryptovoxels specifically is lacking in that area. And that is the platform that I will build my fake campaign on.
Yeah. Unwinding the rebranding. So going back to Cryptovoxels VRM, and then community hours, state of Cryptovoxels or something like that. Sounds eminently reasonable. Fully support that. I will stand up and co-sign any new measure that you want to pass at the next board meeting. There you go.
Dude, I'm like, we should just put this up to a public vote. And then I'm like, if we put this up to a public vote, I might actually win. Do I really want this? I don't know. To be determined. I'll stick with the fake roll for now.
Yeah, I mean, it's all jokes, but it's also semi-serious.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what actually happens here. We should probably set up a fake like community hours, see if we get like a sizable number of parcel owners and folks to show up. I'm sure we will, and then from there, sort of off to the races. Like RIP to any other quote unquote like new interim CEO stepping in out of nowhere. Or
just turn this into like a public campaign, like even though it wasn't supposed to be, or like is not like something that's normally done. I just like started running for this position.
Yeah. I mean, this also sort of, we were talking right before we started recording about what we're going to talk about as we do every week, because we come in unscripted and just off the top of the head, like what's most interesting, top of mind. And like outside of this new um, emerging in flight news, whatever, with Cryptovoxels. It's there's a new crypto social startup that just popped on the scene a couple weeks ago. I know over the years there's been a few attempts at combining crypto and social in this space, like Cent obviously being one of the OG names there. Showtime, Alex Massimedge's project has been doing something for a couple of years. Recently, I think Farcaster and Lens showed up, but recently what popped up on my radar is a new project, Stealcam. Their Twitter handle is TryStealCam. And it's kind of interesting getting more energy around it in the first couple of weeks. I think like $500,000 have moved over the rails of whatever like sidechain or L2 that they're using. I think it may be Arbitrum. And the concept is pretty simple. So instead of like text-based social plays like Cent used to be, they had or they just used like pictures and images. And when the original poster posts them, the images are automatically pixelated, so you can't see what they post. The only way to see it is to steal the image. You steal the image by paying a certain price point, and the stealer, i.e., the person that buys it or buys the image or pays that money to see the image, they're the only one that can see it until, and this is sort of like a cool little social mechanism, someone else pays 0.001 ETH more than they did to steal the image from that first purchaser so that that second person can see it. And after that second purchase, the initial buyer gets their money back, plus maybe a little bit of profit or whatever. A percentage of each sale goes to the platform and I think the original poster, if I'm not mistaken. So it reminds me a little bit of how seeding was on Cent, where you had a first person that seeded a post, like tipped it. If someone came on after that, that initial seeder would get a percentage of that second follow-up seed in addition to the original poster. And it was this cool Ponzi-like way, I guess, to incentivize people to tip because they knew that if they were early, they would get some upside in any future tips that came to the post, in addition to help kind of make a post more discoverable because more money has been fed into it. So it seems like a similar concept or a similar approach, at least, with Stealcam, but kind of popped up. Sounds interesting. Trying to kick the tires on that a little.
I think I saw Song a Day Man post something about that as well. It did pop up, and I remember thinking it was cool, and I do think it's cool. To me, and I sort of feel like this is the crux of a situation with like a lot of these Web3 social media platforms that have come out, and Cent was sort of an outlier, maybe due to the time period that it was sort of thriving in and everything, or maybe it was just due to a combination of things. But I feel like a lot of the ones that have popped up are sort of like leaning on some sort of like interesting mechanism, and when in actuality, like what you're talking about seems like an interesting mechanism that should be woven into something else rather than trying to spin off like a whole nother social media platform surrounding it. And it's possible that I don't understand the nuances of how it works. And maybe it is more like that, but I guess I'm just like broadly, I've tinkered around now, like, after becoming annoyed with like the Twitter algorithm, like over the last couple of years or whatever, I've tinkered around with a bunch of different like alternatives that have popped up along the way. And unfortunately keep coming back to like some of the ones that I don't like, including Twitter. Well, I sort of have a love-hate relationship with it, but I feel like what inevitably ends up happening is that people migrate from one of these things to another because it seems like it's going to be a good alternative. And then you end up in sort of this echo chamber with like 30 defectors from the community who most likely just end up back on Twitter after, a few months anyway. And so I because of that, actually, this goes back like a while. That's one of the reasons why I never got involved in Clubhouse, because, that popped up and I'm like, here's another fad, and something that I don't want to take a ton of time, like building up a following, building out content, building up a community on one of these platforms, only to discover that 6 months down the line, it fizzles out. And in some ways I look back on the whole Clubhouse era and I'm like, and potentially I missed some opportunities by not being more involved in that. But also there's a lot of people who are heavily involved in that, and now it's like essentially a dead platform. I don't know anyone who does anything on Clubhouse anymore, and really try to avoid situations like that it's a gigantic time sink that essentially leads to nothing. Scent was a rare exception to that, I think, for a lot of people, but there aren't many of those exceptions to the rule. And I keep seeing people including Lens Protocol on their Twitter handles, but like from everything I've seen from afar on Lens Protocol, it's like overrun with AI bots and isn't like a very intuitive experience. I was able to claim my handle and get into it a couple times, but like that's also the problem that a lot of these like fledgling social media platforms have, is that they're either too complicated or trying to do too much. And if you can't easily just pop on and understand how it works or what you got to do to engage or how to see good content, I feel like you lose people immediately in like 2 clicks. They check it out and they're like, not for me, and nobody's really done a great job of unlocking that for a very long time. I mean, we've been stuck with the same stuff.
Yeah. It's cool to see an experiment like this, though, that has at least caught on with some of the people that I follow on Twitter. It looks like Legion, Fred Wilson randomly popped into here and are stealing things. A bunch of the crypto VCs, I guess you can say, have discovered it, which irks me to no end, because it's like, what the fuck? We were tagging them over and over back in the days of Scent. At least I was like, yo, check this shit out. It's right up your alley. I kind of missed that boat. And we were a little bit early, I guess, for the first major wave that really finally brought them to the shores of crypto. But it'll be interesting to see if this actually holds up, if the gimmick is enough or extensible enough to allow more creators to do unique things. At least with Try Stealcam, there's an artist who goes by the name of Shlooms. He got, within crypto at least, super famous when he blew up a Lambo and tokenized like the fragments of the Lambo that he blew up, and then made I think the car token. And it was just like very cool work of performance art that caught on and caught fire, and he's super selective about what he actually does in this space. And I think he's earned like a little over 4 ETH from putting out posts that folks have stolen. It's kind of interesting. Even though it's a visual medium, I think there's scope for like writers, for example, to have a post that is pixelated before someone steals it. To kind of unveil like whatever they wrote. Could be an angle, but it also runs the risk of being something that sounds interesting. People get in here. There may be too much friction with the fact that this is on Arbitrum, so you need to like bridge ETH from mainnet to Arbitrum to use. Like, you have to be really in the weeds in order to do that. Bridging is never as seamless as you want it to be, even with like Optimism or Polygon. It's always like a moment of, like, come to Jesus moment where you bridge and like you start praying like you've never prayed before, like, please make it to the other side. So over time it'll be interesting to see if it actually catches on. I know even like I mentioned Showtime, Alex Masmedge's project, but he's using Try Stealcam to stoke interest in a future update that is only viewable by stealing the NFT that contains whatever that future update or new product development is. So kind of interesting, but very early, 2 weeks in. There's still like a huge amount of work and development and adoption that needs to happen. But all the right names are sort of piling in here. So there could be energy, or it could be enough energy to sustain it over the next few weeks.
Yeah, dude, I could see this like being a thing, and I don't know enough about how the back end works to like if there's, some wizard out there who, knows enough about coding or whatever to be able to unpixelate these things by looking at the smart contract or whatever. I'm assuming if you're savvy enough, that's like something in the realm of possibility just because of the nature of how like the blockchain works. However, I don't know if that's true or not, and it would be really cool if this actually solved sort of I don't want to say the problem of the public blockchain, but like actually allowed you to sort of encrypt something on the public blockchain via this pixelated thing that is only able to be unscrambled, by the actual owner of the NFT or whatever. And then I'm like, that's got some legs for sure, because there's a lot of information and a lot of people who would probably be interested in putting something out there, but don't want it necessarily publicly readable by everybody. Again, I don't know enough to know if that's actually possible or it's currently happening with this project. But I do feel like whenever that thing is figured out, that's certainly something that's desirable for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, figuring out if you can like get a sneak peek and kind of like circumvent the pixelation, the hiding of whatever the original work is. Yeah, that's definitely one vector of attack. But then looking at what happened with Shlom's piece, so I think it's like token number 89 was just quote unquote stolen for like $1,000, $11,000, like 6.5 ETH. So that means that the person who sold it, like they just got their money back plus like a percentage of any surplus in between what they originally paid and what that follow-on purchaser paid. But what happens with that person who's just like, they probably have a screenshot of what they collected anyway. Like, right. They would totally rug that new buyer if they were to reveal what the image was, and then no one would need to pay anything more. And then you have that bag holder at the end of the road who's just like, I just paid $11,000 for something that someone else just right-click, saved, and shared with the whole internet. Fuck.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you could sort of see that like being uncorked in like a not very friendly way if like someone really wants to hold leverage over someone who's purchased something at a high price and can just sort of like spill the beans at any time. In some ways, you're putting a lot of trust in the previous collectors to do their part in playing the game of this, social media concept or whatever. I don't know, man. It's cool, but yeah, exactly. How do you even get around something like that? That makes it more seem like it's a cool thing to tinker around with. I also don't see how like, unless you're someone who's already well known or already has like a pre-existing market for whatever you're putting on this thing. Like, I don't see it being the type of thing where someone's willing to roll the dice on like a random pixelated image on the hopes that it's cool. I mean, maybe the price point is pretty low, but like, in my opinion, if I'm looking at this, I'm probably looking to roll the dice on somewhat of a safe bet from someone I've heard of who's already doing this. So there's like a lot of things that need to sort of come together for this to work out pretty well, but not taking away from the concept, man. I love like stuff like that. Stuff like this continues to come out and people are tinkering around with this because it inevitably leads to cooler things down the line.
Yeah. And another cool thing I should say about the project is the incorporation of the leaderboard, both on a personal level, like an individual creator level, and then dude, the leaderboard was one of like the magic features of Senna, I think, in my personal opinion. The red bell and then the leaderboard, they're both kind of like crack and heroin or something. You pick your drug of choice, like really making the product more sticky. So for individual creators, they have the leaderboards for their quote unquote top fans. So you can see like who's stolen things you've created and like how many times.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then the overall leaderboard it obviously goes to earnings. So you have like Shlom's in the lead with like $7,900, almost $8,000 earned, and a bunch of other folks that I have no idea who they are. Some bigger names like Fred Wilson have got like $1,000. Rainbow.me, the crypto wallet, has like $800. So like interesting sums. Not life changing, but definitely enough. And in aggregate, like that $500,000 figure is something that will catch anyone's eye, especially in the middle of a bear. So definitely worth to try out if you haven't checked it out. Kick the tires a little bit more. Hopefully it stokes more interest in the social side of things and see like maybe this is a primitive that another project will integrate in a better way or something like that. But never a dull moment in NFT land.
No, I like the leaderboard, man. I think that's probably one of the things, like you were saying, that Cent really had going for it. And I feel like, and it was a unique, like, sort of hybrid, almost like a game social media site, like depending on if you were playing the playing the Ponzi seed game or whatever it was. But I think that's where, like, a lot of these platforms have sort of fallen flat, where, like, there isn't that sense of, like, competition, or you're playing something. And we had a call with Meme Explorers earlier, and don't want to spill the beans about what they're working on, but essentially, broad scope, it is like gamified social media type of thing, like trying to string all these pieces together to make, like, a user experience that's engaging and doesn't, like, hinge on, like, one mechanism or whatever. And again, man, going back to Scent, I feel like, that appealed to both audiences. Like, I was one of the people who, like, really enjoyed, like, quote unquote playing the game, but also was a participant in the community in terms of just, like, being in the mix and posting content. And you had people like me, but there was also, like, a healthy amount of people who were just not there for that and just there to see what was being posted anyway. And it's a tough line to straddle, man. And I don't think anyone's, like, quite gotten there yet, but I do feel like you can almost never, as long as you can balance the mechanics, like, people inherently love to compete and love gamified things, and it doesn't have to be, like, really complex. It just has to be engaging and fun. And again, man, that going back to, like, the simplicity of, like, how to engage with the product or whatever, and my struggles with Lens and a handful of these other ones, is that's what was great about Scent. It was, like, dead simple. Like, you knew it sort of looked like other stuff that you were familiar with, and so you knew exactly how to engage with it, but there was, like, one or two other, like, mechanisms that were not too difficult to figure out if you were willing to scratch a layer deeper, but you didn't have to either. And so yeah, man, it's you wonder, like, how many of these platforms are just springing up to try and offload themselves to investors by, like, implementing every bell and whistle and cool mechanism that they can think of that doesn't necessarily, like, suit the user base. They're just hoping that, like, someone will think this is what people want and, like, throw a ton of money at it or something. But it's often not, man. I feel like a lot of these really complicated ones have a very narrow scope.
Yeah. And no one's really hit that sweet spot, like the Facebooks or Twitters have in the past, that have something that's simple enough that pretty much every Dick and Jane can get on and, like, figure it out and use it, but also, like, over time allow for that true value accrual. And I guess for Twitter, it's just being able to stay connected in real time with, like, anyone around the world doing something in your neck of the woods, like, whatever niche that happens to be. Same thing, like, Instagram is just entertainment. TikTok, like, even more sticky, I guess, than Instagram, like, focused on, like, whatever it is that you like to see. And the crypto side, like, it's interesting that they're zooming in or double clicking into the image, or, like, a single frame with whatever that contains. Piggybacking off of, I guess, the collectability of NFTs as like, visual objects, or, like, predominantly visual objects. It's a nice native form factor to the space, as opposed to, like, the long form text that Scent had. So it's interesting. It's for sure really interesting. Yeah, sort of repeating myself at this point, but here for it. All the experiments.
Max, no, man, your point is valid. Max Osiris had a post the other day that was, like, something along the lines of, like, when's the AI going to come out that just, like, conglomerates all of my social media presences across all platforms and streamlines them onto, like, one nice looking website or whatever. And I was like, first of all, I was like, yes, dude. Like, when is that going to happen? We're probably not that far off. Probably just, like, one person training ChatGPT to figure it out or whatever for all of us. But I feel like we could
if we use our ETH address for everything, then that's, like, that link that everyone needs to bring everything together. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good, because I feel like there's something, like, there with that, along with social media too, because everything is so spread out, and and we've come back to this like need for, aggregators across like multiple levels. We talked about it with just like bids across like multiple platforms and seeing things across like multiple places. And I feel like, almost like the same thing for social media. I wish there was just like one sort of like, aggregator of all the stuff so that if I click through like, Max Osiris's profile picture or whatever on social media, like all of his stuff populates across like all the things. So I don't have to like, if I'm interested in what he's posted on, whatever he uses versus whatever he uses, I don't have to like, open a bunch of different things or click through a link tree or whatever, like just aggregate all the things in one place in like a streamlined way that I can see everything. And I feel like honestly, like that is probably more the future of social media. That is like some combination of all of these things that lives somewhere independently, rather than like everyone's sort of like running from one platform to another to try and like build up a following in this place. And then, they change the algo and you got to go do it somewhere else and everything. Just aggregate all the things for me, please, robot overlords.
Robot lady, you hear that? Please don't. No, totally. Yeah, so excited for that, dude. And Rizzle Fest, couple weeks, man, couple freaking weeks, and we're here. Any new updates to get the folks who signed up even more excited? I saw that Nate Alex is an attendee now. It's pretty dope.
Yes, Nate Alex is coming. Shout out Nate. Got a couple other confirms that I don't want to like super confirm publicly, just in case something comes out at the last minute and they can't pick up a ticket or come or whatever. But got 4 or 5 exciting new guests coming to that I'll let people know of. And a bunch of dope stuff in the final stages of like getting these t-shirts designs sorted out. It seems like we're going to have some blankets coming for everybody. The Frisbees from Async. Avagachi is potentially getting in the mix too. We're trying to work out this like mural thing with the camp and hiring a mural artist and everything. We're running into like a little bit of pushback with the camp on I don't know, making a gigantic permanent Rizzle Fest mural, but we're gonna figure something out. But dude, people are stoked, man. It feels like a lot of people are really excited, and most exciting to me, honestly, are the people that are coming, man, because I was really hoping to make this sort of like a community driven event in terms of like if everyone showed up and wanted to just sit in a canoe for like 3 days and do nothing, then great. Let's just like all chill and we can, kick it and talk about Web3 stuff for 3 days and have a good time, like stepping away from everything. But everyone, not everybody, but a lot of people, have offered to sponsor things, to do things, to run activities. KaneMayfield is coming. Along with a bunch of other musicians who are willing to perform. So there's a lot of like really awesome content in the mix that'll be going on throughout the weekend that, people can sort of take it or leave it. If they want to come hang out and do a structured activity, they can do it. If they want to just, sit in the canoe and, look at the water and not be in front of the computer for a day, that's cool too. So I don't know, man. It's cool. I feel like it's catching a little bit of attention, and I'm glad because I do feel like there's nothing really being done out there like this, and I feel like I keep seeing people bitching about it, that there's nothing out being done like this, and I feel like I'm like flailing my hands around, and being like, "Hello, like we're doing the different thing right here that like everybody's asking about, and like everybody seems to desire this thing because everyone's sick of like the regular conference circuit and we're doing it here." So but I think it's all right, man. It's not I think we top off around 40 people when it's all said and done. It's not going to be a moneymaker. We're probably just going to barely break even totally by the time this thing is over, but I feel like it went from, for me personally, man, it went from something I really wanted to see if I could push into existence to now when I look at like the people coming and lineup and everything, I'm like, dude, I would pay to go to this thing too. Like if it was happening like independently of me, I'm like, this is like some cool shit that I feel like is going to be like a one of a kind experience. Like if it's successful and we do it again next year, it'll be awesome and dope in a completely different way. But I feel like this is like the first one of a thing. And I like being at the first one of the things before, before everyone else finds out about it or piles on or whatever. So I don't know, man. I mean, we were always entertaining the possibility of like, maybe we sell out all these tickets and maybe it's this like huge thing, and purposely did not put a ton of tickets out there because I don't ever, even if this, gets a ton of attention, I don't have any interest in this becoming like Coachella or like something like this. I feel like the play and the thing about it is that
it's a cool experiment to run. Excited for the results. And then after that, we've done with everything. Look back, what was the good, what was the bad? Can we iterate on this? Is it worth playing it back one more time or not, or whatever? I have a feeling it will be, based on like similar small little gatherings I've been to that have been more focused than some of these bigger events have become. So very optimistic, very excited to meet up with a whole bunch of people that I don't think I've been able to meet IRL yet. So, and then in nature, in Tennessee, a place that I haven't been yet. Very stoked for all those things.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. I'm excited to have you there, and like a ton of people who are, attending the whip every week are coming as well. And so I made a joke, but it's like totally serious that it almost feels like a family like reunion retreat, being held at this campgrounds type of thing. So I think it'll be good, man. I purposely, when we started it off, I was, thinking about booking a lot of content and speaking and everything. And then I was like, you know what? I don't want to run around with the clipboard. And I don't think people are coming to this for that vibe anyway. So let's like reel it back and just make sure we got all the ingredients there to have a, relaxed, fun time and everything. And people are stoked, man. I'm stoked that people are stoked. It makes me more excited.
There we go. Cool. Seems like a natural place to wrap it up this week. We have Wizard X coming on the whip, right? And Fabiano Speziati designed hopping course this week, right, for the whip?
Yes. And let me just tell you how excited I am to have Wizard X on the whip, because I hit him up like almost a year ago now, probably, and was like, hey, man, you should like really get on our podcast. And he's like, dude, he's like, I would love to, and I appreciate you asking me, but I don't really do stuff like that. But I'll like, if at some time in the future I'm down, or ready with a thing, I'll let you know. And then like randomly he like hit me up. He's like, dude, I'm ready to do it or whatever. And this is, a little while ago. So I was like, all right, yes. So this is awesome, because I feel like not everybody gets like the inside peek of Wizard X, and the fact that he's like coming to the whip community to sort of do the thing with us, makes me feel special and everything. So big shout out to Wizard X for doing this with us. And then, Fabiano and Patrizia set up this awesome jumping course. I know Johan loves jumping courses. We've done a few of them over the years in Cryptovoxels and other places. And on top of this week's like weekly giveaway has some prizes to give out for the people who win first through third place. We'll get the Wizard X lowdown and do some hopping, come away with some cool stuff.
Awesome, brother. Looking forward to it. Cool. Well, let's leave it here, and we'll see everyone that listened in over at the whip on Thursday. Shout out to our dudes, Robot Lady, aka Dragonite, and Rizzle for swinging through listening to us today. Later, y'all.
Thank you.